The U.S. recommitted to a security pact with the Philippines on Monday as concerns grow about China's influence in the Pacific. Both President Joe Biden and leader Ferdinand Marcos Jr. alluded to pressure from Beijing in a White House visit. The trip marks a sharp turnaround after a decade of icier relations with Manila.
The United States also remains ironclad in our commitment to the defense of the Philippines, including the South China Sea.
A joint statement said new guidelines for stronger military ties meant any attack on Philippines' armed forces or public vessels would trigger American defense commitments under a 1951 treaty.
It is only natural that for the Philippines to look to its sole treaty partner.
Since taking office last year, Marcos has warmed up to Washington, in contrast to his Beijing-friendly predecessor, Rodrigo Duterte. Public opinion in the Philippines has turned against China too, over the harassing of Philippine ships and fishermen in parts of the South China Sea, both countries claim. U.S. officials say on top of the new guidelines, Washington will also send 3 military transport planes and possibly more patrol ships. The U.S. sees the Philippines as key to any effort to counter a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, the self-ruled island that Beijing claims as its own territory. If the People's Liberation Army does launch an amphibious assault on Taiwan, experts say the Philippines would be a potential location for the U.S. to base rockets, missiles, and artillery systems that would repel the Chinese invasion force. Earlier this month, the U.S. gained military access to 4 new sites on the Philippines, 3 of them that face north towards Taiwan. While the exact shape of a U.S.-Philippine alliance in a wartime scenario remain unclear, Marcos has told reporters before he does not want the Philippines to become a staging post for military action. Separately, President Biden also announced he would bolster economic ties, sending a mission to Manila to advance trade and investment in clean energy, critical minerals, and food security.
Email exchanges from inside the BBC, they talk about the risk of violating Indian laws. It's easier to rake up the freedom of speech debate, but does it give anyone a free pass to knowingly violate the law? America supports India because it needs India's support in return. And India is working with the US because it suits India's interests. This is how geopolitics works. Last night, he diffused a crisis with his defense minister. But today, Netanyahu was confronted with a new problem. His cabinet seems to have rebelled against him. The UK is looking at the Indian subcontinent to fill its coffers. That India seems to be negotiating from a position of power, like a partner and not a former colony.